A very good morning to you. Welcome along to Thursday morning's OTBAM. As ever, if you want to listen to us only, if you don't want to look at us, remember you can do that on the website. It's a radio breakfast show if you want it to be. It's a radio TV. It's a breakfast TV sports show if you want us to be. We are whatever. You're a private dancer, basically, when it comes to sports TV. You pay your money and it's free. And we behave whatever way you want us to, sometimes. That's sleazed into dangerous territory pretty quickly there, Eoin.
A man alive right now. That's absolutely horrifying.
The reason that I was thinking such salacious thoughts was that people have been sliding into my DMs for the first time in a very long time.
No way. Why?
To show me GAA jerseys.
Wow.
We were talking about the best club GAA jerseys on yesterday's show, and yeah, suddenly people started sliding in with pictures of them in action. I was like, all right. I mean, not really what I thought sliding into DMs was about, but there you go.
How does the conversation develop? Is it like...
It doesn't. I'm like, oh, this may include sensitive material. I'm like, oh, you don't follow this person. Will I? Ah, yeah, I'll just see what this is. Curiosity, obviously, and then it's like a GAA jersey.
Like, what did you expect when Ballyhale Shamrocks were DMing you?
It wasn't Ballyhale. I would never cast aspersions on a great club like Ballyhale. I'll just find exactly what club it was so that I can cast aspersions on them. Give me a minute there. Talk amongst yourself, Eoin.
Well, there has been a huge reaction, of course, to that piece we did yesterday, talking about the best jerseys we've seen in the AIB Club Championship down through the years. And we kind of came up with our own sort of list yesterday. The likes of Glenbeigh was my particular favourite. Glenbeigh, Glencar, we talked about. Castlebar Mitchells, we talked about. Nemo Rangers. The UCC jersey came up, which is an all-time classic. The Skull, although Ger seemed to think that the old version of the UCC jersey was a little bit better. Sarsfields, as we can see on screen right now, that's the hurling club in Perth, not Sarsfields Kildare, of course, or Sarsfields Tip. That is, yeah, that's very nice jersey actually. It's got a classic old...
Oh, no, Perth, okay.
It's an old school, like, tip jersey. It's very nice.
It is class, yeah.
See,
that's what I like, right? It's a proper old school throwback to something, and it's not this shiny, sheeny, unbreakable plastic that will be in the ocean for 1,000 years.
Yeah, but obviously cotton is impractical, particularly in Perth.
I mean, I'm looking for a cotton substitute. It doesn't have to be actually cotton. What's this Man United bullshit? Well,
this is somebody who's modelled themselves on the Manchester United jersey, or rather, Manchester United has modelled it on...
Oh, I see the vague connection here with the stripes at the bottom. Laherdane in Mayo.
Laherdane?
Laherdane.
Who knows?
Tommy's got his hands up there.
That is a nice jersey.
All you have to do is pretend that you know what you're talking about. So it's Cathal Murphy from Carrigaline who is sliding into my DMs. How you doing, Cathal? Best club jerseys in Ireland from Carrigaline and Cork, and they're kind of... Maybe Tommy can dig one out for us because I'm not accepting that, so I can't cut and paste. I should really accept it. It's fine. Slide into my DMs all you want. It's grand. Yeah, so that was one of the things we were talking about. We were looking for Monaghan people to be very excited, and there are some Monaghan people being very excited, but there is also this kind of weird sense of we definitely can't let ourselves go here, because if we do, who knows, we might begin to believe that we have a chance of beating Kerry, and at that point, we all know what's going to happen. We'll talk ourselves into believing, and then suddenly Kerry will come and kick our asses.
Well, the thing is, the two Monaghan teams that came very close to beating Kerry, 07 and 08, as far as I remember, they're not as good as the current Monaghan team, and the Kerry team are not as good as that Kerry team, and it's not in Croke Park, it's in Clones.
Yeah.
So it is the best ever chance in the modern era, in the qualifier era, of course in the Super 8 era, for Monaghan to beat Kerry. But at what point does that excitement become pressure? That's all I want to know.
Yeah, hopefully, like with 5 minutes left to go and they're 6 points up, they begin to feel pressure. Here's the Carrigaline jersey, we can show you that now. Oh no, that's not, that's...
Yeah, Colin Cooper in a Carrigaline jersey. That is a nice jersey.
Oh no, that's the away jersey then. It must be because it's black. There's a black one.
Yeah, it's. I'm not sure what the Colin Cooper association there was with Carrigaline, but yeah, it was a pretty nice jersey. Well done to all of Carrigaline for that. I'm looking forward to seeing the other one now that was slid into Ger's DMs, or maybe somebody's just having you on, Ger. Maybe there is no Carrigaline jersey that isn't blue and yellow.
I'm just going to WhatsApp it here to Tommy. This is great radio/TV. Tommy. Really.
He was doing a sponsored event for Super Valley in Carrigaline. I'm worthily told there from the producer.
Okay, there's loads of stuff we have to tell you about what's coming up on the show today. For example, Owen's been out hanging out with athletes who are spending their time wisely. Oliver Dingley is in college at the moment while also preparing for the Olympic Games in Tokyo. It's a pretty amazing interview actually. He talks openly about how difficult a time he had after the last Olympic Games. He's our only diver, and he's just a brilliant character, actually. Has an amazing backstory, recovered from really serious injury a couple of times, was working on building sites as well to make sure that he could actually get himself into the last Olympic Games, and finally he's got a bit of sponsorship, so things are looking up for him. So he's definitely somebody you can get behind. We're going to talk about the Tour de France. An amazing day yesterday. We'll get into that in the newspapers in a couple of minutes' time. The Open is underway with what looks like a weird lunar landscape, because there is absolutely no green on the fairways at the moment. Jay Townsend was on the radio last night talking to the lads, saying when the pictures emerge tomorrow morning, when you start actually seeing what the fairways look like here at Carnoustie, everybody's going to be a little bit shocked. And yeah. I'm
pretty sure Sky Sports have accidentally sent their cameras to the Dubai Desert Classic or something, because that is not Carnoustie.
Well, the Dubai Desert Classic actually has much greener fairways.
Yeah, that is true.
Bizarrely. And then also the CPA obviously have been active over the last 24, 48 hours talking about a survey that they did of their players. We're going to talk with Anthony Moyles about that a little bit later on. We might also slip him a question or two. We'll slide into his DMs about the weekend's Super 8s. Now though, time for the newspapers.
OTBAM.
Thanks to Screwfix.ie. Championing the trade with a dedicated call centre.
And here, look, of course, if you want to get in touch this morning, feel free to do so. The best way is by Twitter, @OffTheBall or @OffTheBallAM for the specific Twitter account of this show. We stream live every morning there. You can also leave comments in the YouTube section. We're bringing back the ball bag in a very special digital only, and so therefore potentially X-rated version, which we will start recording this week and sending live on Saturday mornings. If you would like to make the ball bag.
The off the ball bag.
The off the ball bag, then feel free to get in touch. Do your worst, because some of us can take it and some of us definitely can't. Going to start with the Irish Examiner this morning. Cutting loose. Rory ready to throw caution to the wind at Carnoustie. They're talking about him using driver, although I don't think he's actually got a driver in his hand in the picture, unless it's a very small-headed driver. Tommy Martin, society is too dumb to heed France's inclusive message. And then Clonus Cyclone. There's been no mention of Barry McGuigan this week whatsoever. Clonus's favourite son. Monaghan can topple vulnerable Kerry, says Hero Hughes. I mean, there's a chance that Kerry are no good. We've gone from being like All-Ireland contenders to no good in the space of a week. Well, what's with our massive overreaction?
Because of the provincial championships. They are not fit for purpose, and it turns out that nobody knows anything when it comes to looking at the provincial championships. The one thing I would say is that you look at Dublin over the last in the Jim Gavin era, they have absolutely coasted through Leinster, and that form has held up. Mayo, when, like, say, 2013, 2014, when they're doing particularly well, when they're at an All-Ireland level, competing with the All-Ireland winners in both years, they're coasting through Connacht. Like, I don't see how a team can coast through their province to the extent that Kerry have done without being All-Ireland contenders. That's the one thing I would say. Conversely, it's like, who did they play? And we saw Tyrone do to Cork what Kerry did to Cork.
But the form lines have not held up whatsoever. I mean, you being rightfully confused about the role of Fermanagh as like a guide of form throughout the whole championship has just been nonsensical.
That was weird, yeah. The Ulster Championship is its own little anomaly though, isn't it? Like, anything can happen up there. So I think that's a little bit different, but yeah, you're right. Nobody knows anything. Maybe Kerry are no culture. Maybe they're not.
The back page of the Times Ireland edition has a picture of Roy Keane and Michael O'Flynn. Michael O'Flynn, one of the main organisers of the testimonial dinner and football match for Liam Miller. Tickets are going on sale for the game between Ireland and Manchester United. Legends from both setups, and like a proper A-list group of players are going to play for both teams. That game's going to be in Turner's Cross in September. On the 25th of September, there will also be an evening event, and tables, I think, are nearly sold out for that as well. So that's Roy Keane and Michael O'Flynn announcing that yesterday. Liverpool star for the season, this is Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain. Quotes coming through from the from the Liverpool boss, Jurgen Klopp, saying that the knee injury that he sustained in the Champions League semi-final last year is going to keep him out for the entire season, more than likely. And Tyrone fans must make it hostile. This is interesting. This is an interesting development. Owen Mulligan has called on Tyrone supporters to create a hostile, intimidating and uncomfortable atmosphere for Dublin to play in at Healy Park. We've never had games this big in provincial grounds where there's been a large coterie of home fans.
Yeah, it's kind of like, you do think about it, and you think about how heated some of those league games have got without there being that much in the line. You think about the Battle of Omagh, you think about the Battle of Tralee, you think about, say, Castlebar earlier on this year where things got fairly testy in that encounter. Put the championship, not intensity, but the championship stakes in those environments. And suddenly you've got a fire that's already lighting and just a bit more petrol on top of that there. And there is a huge possibility for things to spill over. Like the great thing about the coverage of the Battle of Omagh this morning in all those newspapers is it reminds me wistfully of how bad Dublin used to be. The good old days when Tyrone used to be favourites, when everybody used to love coming up against Dublin, and just seeing a crap team get really, really angry going up to Omagh and places like that. That was beautiful. Whereas now they're all cool, calculated. They can be fiery when they want to be, but ultimately they'll come out on top. And I suspect they'll win by 2-3 points at the weekend.
They are pretty relaxed, really, as a team. There's a couple of good, quick pieces that I just wanted to talk about briefly from the Times Ireland edition. Pub meetings and new beds inside the Irish transfer market. Shane Keegan, the former manager of Galway United and Wexford Youth, talks about how transfers actually play out in the League of Ireland. It's a really interesting piece. It kind of just details that the manager ends up doing the vast majority of the negotiations. There's no kind of board of directors looking after it, and frequently you're not actually dealing with agents. You're kind of talking to the players themselves. So there's one story where there's a guy who says he's got an offer of 150 quid more a week than what he's being offered, and Keegan's like, I think it's probably BS, but I can't prove that it's BS. So we do a deal at 75 quid more in the middle, and then he starts asking about goal bonuses and win bonuses, and it's like, all right, okay, and suddenly I'm way over what I'm supposed to be paying him, but I've got to do it because I need the player. And then he's like, I'm going to be away from home a lot because, you know, I don't live in the city where obviously either Galway or Wexford, and I don't have a double bed. My girlfriend's going to be staying over. Silence. Like, okay, I'll get you a double bed. So
that's incredible.
It's like, it's not the glitz and glamour of, what about my image rights? How much, if I make 6 public appearances for you, do I get 10 million or 20 million?
So the manager ends up becoming a fixer for a potential transfer target.
Yeah. And also a motivator, and then a tactician, and trying to balance the books and all the rest of the stuff. So it's very different. And then there's a good story from the Ireland Rugby Sevens, the women's team, who are currently in the World Cup. They play England in the round of 16 tomorrow. That one's at 8:10 in the evening, and I think these games are in San Francisco.
Yeah.
So they're talking about Lucy Mulhall, who is the captain of the team. There's a really interesting bit where they're talking about her decision to switch. She's a Gaelic footballer, basically, grows up as a Gaelic footballer and then moves to become a rugby player. And apparently this is a big deal, right? She was a full forward when she was spotted by Stan McDowell, the Ireland Sevens assistant coach, who invited her to Amsterdam for a trial with the oval ball because she'd played in the All-Ireland Junior final in 2011 in Croke Park against New York. I took a chance and quickly loved the sport. It's really honest. Everyone has to work together. It was a big decision for me at the time. Some of my best friends and family are in the GAA. My whole family are very passionate about GAA, but I saw it as an opportunity. I had so much support from everyone around me at home, and they made it really easy. Some of them have even come abroad to watch me play. It's like, you know, it's such a big deal to go from playing GAA to rugby. I
wonder, is there a coming out party where you reveal yourself to your family as a rugby fan? It seems like the defence of a controversial moment where, say, the president of the GAA makes a disparaging remark about rugby, and someone's like, you can't say those remarks about rugby, and the person of the GAA is like, well, actually, some of my best friends are rugby players, and that's how they kind of make up for that. It's remarkable. It's that there is kind of like a little element of truth in how we might view that, but it's...
Shane Stapleton's going, jeez, I can't believe you're playing the rugby.
Well, that is true.
But imagine, it would be kind of like Stapleton going home and telling his folks that actually secretly he's been a rugby fan all these years, that all that bravado about it is actually just a repressed love for it.
Yeah, but maybe it is. He could be well suited to the game of rugby.
Coming out of the rugby closet. I've done the Examiner. Have we done the... No, we haven't. So the Irish Independent back page today. Pressure bills to revisit dates for All-Ireland finals. I have plenty of time left to win majors, insists Rory McIlroy. 2 different pictures there from the one that we got through last night, and then there's one of him in action. And then it's Ox ruled out for the rest of the season as Reds close in on Alisson. This is the news that the £67 million in brackets, €75 million transfer for the Roma Brazilian goalkeeper Alisson will happen. And Martin Russell last night resigned as the manager of Bray Wanderers, so that is officially FUBAR at Bray at the moment. I wonder where the pressure to revisit the All-Ireland finals is coming from. The Irish Independent understands some counties are consulting with each other to gauge the level of support for reviewing the dates.
It's a strange story. Like, you read it and you're like, there is elements of the GAA, some county boards, who wanted to be pushed back, both All-Ireland finals, to be pushed back to September because of the promotional opportunity that September affords. And Breheny points out that this would be possible to change because they've already changed it due to the exceptional circumstance of the Pope's visit, which allowed the Football Championship final to be put back 1 week. He does, however, go on to say that that was an exceptional circumstance, and the moving of an All-Ireland final outside of Congress can only be done under exceptional circumstances. And he feels, Breheny feels that kind of the vocalisation of some of the points here from some of the county boards that it should be played in September is not an exceptional circumstance, therefore the GAA cannot move it even if it wanted to. But it's a weird one. It's weird timing. Maybe, like, I don't know, are the GAA suddenly waking up in the middle of the championship thinking, God, time is ticking on this championship, we want this to last a little bit longer. The promotional opportunity maybe is a real one, the argument about that. So it'll be very interesting to see if one of the top brass in the GAA come out and actually supports this or says that there is an opportunity to move this, because I've got a feeling that there will be widespread support for pushing the All-Ireland Championship finals back into September.
Like if it's the first and second week, but the whole point of this was to give the club players extra time.
The county boards are saying that it's actually not going to make that much of a difference to the club player. It'll actually be interesting. We could actually ask Anthony Moyles a little bit later on what the difference would be, but according to Martin Breheny's piece there, it's not going to make a hell of a lot of difference to some of the counties.
Yeah. Okay, so winning now the only thing on confident Kupka's mind. This is Brooks Koepka, who has an amazing record in the majors over the last 18 months, 2 years. I think 11th is his worst performance over that period of time, and obviously back-to-back US Opens in the middle of that as well. So we'll talk with Joe's going to join us a little bit later on to help us preview that. It was good stuff yesterday on the podcast Golf Weekly from Peter Lowry. He was on the range chatting with caddies, talking to people there, and McIlroy poised to make major effort to end America's reign, over a picture of him jumping into the drink to pick out a ball. He's playing alongside Shane Lowry there, and then Darren Clarke is turning 50, so he's going to be able to play in the Champions Tour. And then Howard's Way looks tailor-made for Dublin as he claims Flynn's mantle. This is Eamon Donoghue's piece. Each week Eamon Donoghue picks a piece, looks at the stats, and this week he's talking about Brian Howard, who has been sensational. I think might be at this point favourite for Young Player of the Year.
He is eligible, is he?
I presume so. He's only 20, isn't he? Isn't Brian Howard only 20?
He would be eligible for... Yeah, so yeah, he would be. He's 1 year younger than Con, then, is he?
Is this not like... well, I suppose... Is this not like the Ireland young footballer that you can get it until the time you're 24 or 25? Or is there a strict cut-off point?
To be honest with you, I don't know. But if he comes into that category, he's certainly got a hell of a shot.
He's 21. I mean, in fairness, the Clifford performance last week when he was the only man standing up...
makes it a battle. Whereas last year, Conor Callaghan was head and shoulders above everybody else. Whereas Clifford versus Howard, if they both make All-Ireland semi-finals, which Dublin will, that could actually be a great battle underlying for that gong.
Zach Johnson is the tip on the back of the Racing Post this morning. Johnson can maintain his impressive recent form at the record. His form is 16-9, 6, 47, 1, 12, 14 from 2011 onwards. It's not, I mean, there's a win in the middle and there's...
That was the Paul Dunne year. 2
top 10s and that's it.
Yeah, that was...
And he was 20th in 2007. I don't know. I mean, is he worth it? What are you tipping him up for there? That's interesting.
What was it, 2015 when he won the Open? Like, that was the biggest bummer of all time when Zach Johnson won the Open, because it had teed itself up beautifully on the Sunday, and of course that was the Open that went to the Monday in the end, when Paul Dunne and Padraig Harrington were both tied for the leader as Dunne was one clear on the Sunday, and I was like, this is going to be the greatest finish of all time, and then the most boring golfer of all time wins it. I was like, screw you, Zach Johnson, for ruining my favourite weekend of the year. So let's just hope he doesn't do it again.
There's been a few no-mark American winners. Ben Curtis.
What year was that? It's going back a bit.
Is it?
Like, do you call Stuart Sink's win a no-mark American? I wouldn't. Like, I'm trying to think of the last 10, 15 years. Ben Curtis, when?
2003.
2003, okay.
It's not that long ago.
It's not that long ago, no. It's only 15 years ago. It's only 15 years ago. It's not that long ago. The back page of the Herald is red heat. Mulligan calls for a hostile Dubs climate.
Dick move on. Dick move.
A lot of people are coming out this morning to say that Omagh needs to become a cauldron for Dublin at the weekend.
Who's that? Who's the last one?
Owen Mulligan.
Oh yeah.
It's the Herald. I'll never forget the Battle of Omagh as well, says Alan Brogan. And this is the big opportunity now for Dublin pundits to really kind of big up the opportunity for the opposition and actually get it right, because quite often they do it. They say, well, Laois are going to be a tough opposition this weekend. They pose a good challenge. Longford will be tough as well now this weekend, and always it just falls through. Whereas this is a real opportunity for Dublin pundits to actually get it right this weekend.
Philip, who's a Liverpool fan, at PoolFan81, says, how can they make it hostile given how the GAA have ensured Dublin will get almost half of the tickets? Where is the home advantage? This is a good point, actually. At some point down the line, they're going to have to make it so that home advantage is a real thing and you get more tickets if you're the home county. That we guarantee we'll give you 6,500 or we'll give you 65% of the tickets to sell to your crowd, and then the rest will go on general sale.
There is a good...
Or maybe that's not a GAA thing at all. Maybe it's like you have to do it 50-50 and that's the whole point.
Perhaps. I don't know, I prefer the kind of cauldron environments that you might get sometimes with home advantage. So.
Would it be an idea to maybe have like one end be the away end so that all the away fans, and then the atmosphere becomes amazing? That's like, they segregate fans in the UK for reasons of people fighting, but actually the impact is that you get these amazing colour walls like you do in Dortmund.
Yeah.
Is it ridiculous?
No, it's not ridiculous. It's doable. Like what you do in Croke Park. Isn't that what they already do in Croke Park?
Hey, well, there's the point.
Just on that, inside the Herald, Frank Roach has compiled some good stats here on a piece here. It's on page 53. Green flag's gone a begging for the Blues. So net loss, Dublin's wasted chances. So he goes through all the championship games, all the goal chances that Dublin have had, all the goal chances they've converted, and all those that they've missed. So in the game versus Wicklow, they scored 4 goals and missed 3 goal chances. Against Longford, they scored 2 goals, missed 6 goal chances.
Oh, yeah.
Against Laois, they scored 1, missed 5 goal chances.
I was on the spread in both those games. I was like, what are you doing?
And then Donegal, they scored 2 goals, of course, and missed 4. So total goals, 9 in 4 games. Pretty good record, but they've missed 18. There is a possibility here that this is the easiest All-Ireland that Dublin will ever win. If they can convert those opportunities into goals, if Kerry get picked off, Mayo are already picked off, Dublin just saunter through.
So it would be Galway in the final, and it would be
Monaghan in the semi-final. What have Dublin done to Monaghan in Croke Park the last few times you've seen it? They've torn them, each limb they've picked, they've just torn it off their body and devoured them.
in the league. The games have been close.
The league is the league. Like, I hate that cliche so much, but it is the truest cliche of all time. You cannot read anything into the league. And it turns out we might not be able to read much into Dublin's lack of accuracy or rustiness or however it's been depicted over the last couple of weeks, because those goal chances that they've had, surely there's enough talent. Like, you look at the likes of Conor O'Callaghan, people are saying it's a lack of confidence at the moment with Conor O'Callaghan. It might be a lack of luck. It might be the fact that 2017 Conor O'Callaghan just explodes into life over the next 6 weeks. There is terrifying potential in that Dublin team for them to just saunter through to September and beyond if the All-Irelands get pushed back. But the back page of the Mirror then this morning is Moan United. The Reds haven't even played yet, but already Jose insists that their pre-season is bad and he's worried. Robotic Rory then told to forget contracts and just play golf. And Allison jets in for a £67 million cop switch and ox out for the whole season. That was an interesting enough element actually to that press conference yesterday when Jurgen Klopp is like, by the way, we have some news on Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain. It wasn't an injury update. They knew this as soon as he came out of the operation theatre on his ligament damage in the Champions League match against Roma, that he was going to be out for basically 12, 13, 14 months. And Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain said, no, I don't want that information to get out there. I want you to finish the season as you mean to finish it, and I don't want this cloud to hang over you. So basically Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain has been holding in this information for 3 months. And it hasn't been revealed the true extent of his injury, but they revealed it yesterday, and it's bad news for Liverpool because he was in such good form before that injury. The back page of the Irish Daily Star this morning is Healy Spark. Tyrone Boss Hart wants Omagh to be rocking for a visit of the Dubs. Ox is out for entire campaign there, and Rory's ready to turn back time. Now,
just on the macro, I don't know, can you see that? You can't see that. If I walk up, I'm going to walk up a little bit closer to try and make this a bit better, because this picture, somebody at the Times hates Rory McIlroy. Can you see?
You've completely messed that up.
Now there, look there, yeah. I need to go this way, do I? Yeah. Look at that picture. Look at that. A fresh-faced Rory McIlroy is what they're saying. Look at him. That's gross. Look, the poor little... He's a teenager in this picture. You're like, oh my God. Somebody in the Times... Whoa. That's it. Beautiful. Camera left. Look at that. Look, poor Rory McIlroy. He opens the newspaper this morning. He's at Carnoustie thinking, okay, so, maybe I'm not performing to my optimum at the moment, but, yeah. And then he looks at that picture and goes, oh, Jesus. Yeah. It's like you having your Bebo account mysteriously activated and us being able to access it. Please
let that never, ever, ever happen, is all I'm saying. Like he says he was yearning for those days. Maybe if he sees that picture, he's like, actually, no, I rather the new look Rory. Maybe in mind he wants carefree Rory back again. 11 years ago now, when he was looking after Patrick Harrington's kid as Harrington went and won the Open. Feels like just yesterday, Chair. It's only 11 years ago, not quite 15. The back page of The Sun is, this is an interesting one. I'm not sexist, homophobic or racist. Sarri's amazing first press conference. Of course, Maurizio Sarri unveiled as Chelsea manager yesterday. It's kind of a reminder, really. I'd kind of forgotten about this myself. The accusations of homophobia from Roberto Mancini in Serie A last year when Maurizio Sarri used the F word against Mancini. He says he was angry at the time, that he's sorry for it. And on the sexism claim, just to remind everybody what happened there, because I couldn't really recall this. The Sun says Sarri was branded a sexist after telling a female reporter, "You're a woman, you're beautiful. For those two reasons, I won't tell you to go F yourself." So there's two, I suppose, kind of very, very bad quotes there attributed to Maurizio Sarri. He says he's sorry for that, he's changed. He says that he wants people to forget about it quickly and that he's forgotten about it quickly. He's a changed man and that doesn't really represent his personality, he says. The evil empire of Chelsea Football Club may have found their perfect manager. It may have done indeed. Speaking, well, not of an evil empire, of a beautiful empire. The back of the Guardian is "It's all gone yellow." Thomas leads tour with Froome second. Geraint Thomas on the same day his former classmate Sam Warburton, not his classmate, his former schoolmate Sam Warburton retired from rugby. Geraint Thomas goes and takes yellow in the tour. It's going to be very interesting politically how Team Sky negotiate that over the next couple of days. Sunday week, I think, is when they're on the Champs-Elysees. He's in first now. Chris Froome's in second. Bradley Wiggins, of course, came out during the week that Dave Brailsford is going to try and grind the two rocks off against each other over the next couple of days. And that might happen. Froome could have won the stage yesterday if he wanted to. But Geraint went first. A couple of things, right? So we were excited by the Wiggins thing when he came out and went, oh, maybe he's going to be an amazing pundit because he's like trying to stab them both in various different ways. And he's being quite open about his bitterness towards them. But what if you read the situation completely wrong? I saw somebody making the point on Twitter that this is a genius move by Team Sky to have Geraint Thomas in yellow, which takes a lot of the focus away from Chris Froome, which means the French crowds won't be throwing piss at him. Throwing yellow at him was the symbolism, if you missed it, of the Eoin attacks on Froome. And actually, there's been no sense of the atmosphere. The Eurosport commentator mentioned the atmosphere changed a little bit when Chris Froome closed the gap a little bit on the Thomas group yesterday in the final 2 kilometres. But apart from that, there's been almost no significant negativity towards Froome that we were told was going to be an awful experience for him and for Team Sky. But there is a shield. The Geraint Thomas is a shield for that because he's in yellow for now. At the last minute in the mountains, you decide to switch it up. And maybe Geraint Thomas is actually good enough to hold Chris Froome off, but that's probably unlikely at this point because Froome looks like a machine. He was yesterday, whenever anybody wanted to take a break or make a break, he would just ride up with him and go on, keep going, off you go, making them do all the work as Thomas closed the gap on the leader of the stage and ultimately romps home to win the stage. I wonder, was it a Freudian slip, so to speak, from Chris Froome yesterday when Geraint Thomas just slides away from the peloton, makes that attack on Nieve, and Froome is like, I gotta go after him. And then he's like, actually, no, I can't, because I'm just going to bring everybody with me. And when he saw Dan Martin attack, I think Chris Froome was like delighted. It's like, now I can actually get off my saddle a little bit and actually try and challenge Geraint here. And it turns out Dan Martin couldn't bring Chris Froome along. That Martin
or knock it out of his saddle.
Or knock it out of his saddle, indeed. Does Chris Froome, I wonder, get out of his saddle just to make it look like he's trying hard?
It happens so rarely.
Happens so rarely. That's like, if I was Chris Froome, I'd be getting out of my saddle all the time because people are always criticising me for just sitting in the saddle all the time.
Yeah, but then, you'd be listening to them and...
Apparently, if you're on a climb and you lose the rhythm of your pedal stroke by 1 inch, you're doomed. Like, you're finished straight away. So getting out of the saddle can sometimes hamper that. You've got your pedal stroke has to be exactly the same as soon as you get out of the saddle. But this is probably very basic information for any huge cycling fans out there. But if you lose that pedal stroke one bit when you're climbing a big climb like they were yesterday, you're finished. I
didn't know that. There was somebody going around the corner at one point, and it
just comes to a complete halt.
Yeah. A couple of quick things. Robert Purfield wants to know, can you pin a Periscope broadcast on a dressing room wall? You need to screen grab it, print it out, and then you could WhatsApp it to everybody, which is basically this is the easiest All-Ireland that Dublin will ever win, says.
Probably is.
I wish you'd credited Kerry's own Sheahan with that one, but so we were talking a bit about Warburton there because I didn't realise Geraint Thomas was from the same school as Gareth Bale and Sam Warburton. So it's a pretty impressive school. There's the three of them in there. Various, two very skinny guys who have immense power, and then Sam Warburton, who you would say is not skinny.
No.
Forced to retire at the age of 29 after a series of chronic injuries. A pretty amazing career for somebody who was essentially christened the leader from the get-go and actually managed to live up to that responsibility as well. About Owen's comments regarding Rory McIlroy's Bebo picture.
Oh no! Oh.
What's this, Owen?
That's an old profile picture
from Bebo.
That's not from Bebo. That's actually from Facebook, which is rather embarrassing, isn't it?
Darren Cleary, thanks very much for that. You're a good man, Darren Cleary.
Thanks, Darren.
But that was. Can we stick it back up for a second? Because we're not just embarrassing you here, we're embarrassing one of our colleagues, is it?
Yeah, it's a political correspondent there, Sean Defoe, yeah.
All right, okay. And who's the third person?
That's our friend Lisa, yeah.
All right. And where are you?
Now you're digging right into my life here, Ger.
You're in Poland, are you?
I think that's in Prague.
In Prague, okay.
That was kind of pointless, wasn't it?
No.
That was a bit pointless.
It was really good.
Now you set the bar here, Ger. Now Ger has set the bar. So look forward to numerous images. Whatever I can get my hands on, I promise you, I'm making a pledge to you, the viewer, that there will be some sort of restitution, some sort of retribution.
That's fine.
For what happened there.
The key to this is not feeling embarrassment about it.
The key here is probably not being of an age where you might have had kind of, I don't even know, there's nothing to be embarrassed about there. I think I've deleted everything.
Oh, there you go. Well, this is me doing journalism. Look, I've literally got my big journalism hat on me. This is from 2002, the Saipan fallout in the FAI's offices in Marion Square.
Well, there you go. This is I really,
There you go. Revenge is a dish best served cold.
That's poor.
Okay, so the hurling bracket. This is one of the other massive controversies that's happened this week on the hurling show. Ahead of the hurling show, to bump it up. Best hurler elimination, hashtag the hurling show. This is the handwritten results from Shane Stapleton. You can.
This came straight from our graphics department.
Exactly. You can check this on Twitter. So Owen Murphy has beaten Austin Gleeson, Pádraig Walsh, and then was beaten by Daithí Burke. Daithí Burke has beaten Seamus Harnedy, and Harnedy had beaten Tom Morrissey. Jamie Barron was also beaten by Daithí Burke. So Burke beats Murphy. That's the easy side of the draw. No controversy there, really. Daithí Burke beats Owen Murphy. It's a 55-45. Not enough of the Kilkenny lads came out to play. Can we stick that back up there for a second and we get the hard side of the draw? So the hard side of the draw, Patrick Horgan against Paddy Maher. What? 60%. Horgan won that one. Joe Canning beat John Conlon in a landslide, 81%.
That's a bit unfair on the
TJ Reid, landslide over Seamus Callanan, just I think to do with fitness more than anything, 83%. Was that a 95%? Tony Kelly beat Chris Crumley.
85.
85, okay. So then it was Reid against Kelly, a landslide for TJ Reid against Tony Kelly, 79%. And a landslide for Joe Canning against Patrick Horgan, 71%. Then Canning and Reid neck and neck all week. TJ Reid versus Joe Canning, 52%. Joe Canning is through to the final against Daithí Burke, where the go-away vote will be split, but you would assume at this point that Joe Canning is going to be christened the greatest hurler in the country on the hurling show by Shane Stapleton, just months after Stapleton's biggest faux pas when Where was Joe Canning on his list? 8th or 9th? Did he make his list?
He was definitely in the top 10.
Yeah.
We don't want to do an injustice there. Owen Murphy, spectacular performance from him there. Is it doing an injustice to say he's the Croatia of this hurling World Cup?
I'd say his performance has been so good for so long, over such a sustained period of time. He definitely was one of those people who was so underrated for so long that he slides into that other side of it where he's like, well, is he a bit overrated? But obviously no one's saying that in hurling, because nothing's overrated in hurling.
Nothing is overrated. Everything is perfectly rated. Everybody appreciates every ounce of hurling. And if you don't appreciate it, you can get the hell out of that sport.
Fair enough. I mean, it is fair enough, really. We've got this great thing. Why would you shit on it?
It's true. Maybe some people who play hurling have actual friends and family who play rugby and things like that as well.
Yeah, it's fair enough. And we'll obviously be keeping an eye on how the Irish women do in the sevens, rugby sevens. So, are you done?
Just one last one, Rory on the front page of the Daily Telegraph sports section. McIlroy's teenage dream.
Oh, nice picture of Rory as a teenager, look.
Yeah, it's a nice one. I like that.
I'm like about to puke.
I need to go back to 2007 where I played Carefree. That is a lot from the newspapers this morning, sure.
Don't worry about contracts and stuff. Who was warning them to do that? I think we can start talking golf now, can we? In just a minute. At Off the Ball AM if you want to get in touch with us on Twitter. We're also streaming live on facebook.com/Off the Ball, and you can like us there. You can share our streams. One of the most important things that you can do, though, if you want to be involved in the show, is to subscribe on YouTube, because we put loads of extra stuff up there. You get some extra goodness that doesn't actually go out live either on the radio at night on Newstalk or here on OTBAM in the mornings. Now, let's talk golf. The first pictures have emerged from Carnoustie this morning, and the fairways are indeed burnt brown. Joe Molloy is with us to help us preview this. Jay Townsend was telling you this exact thing last night on the radio, that we'd all be a little bit taken aback when we saw the pictures this morning.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. We've never seen Carnoustie like this, certainly. You have to go back probably to Muirfield in 2013 for the last time we had peroxide fairways. That was when Phil Mickelson won. But in terms of Carnoustie, we've never seen anything like this. Bizarrely, and I can't remember the last time this happened, but the fairways were running faster on the Stimpmeter than the greens this week in practice. A few of the Sky Sports pundits were saying you could literally skateboard down the fairways if you wanted. They are rock hard, and it's meant that the whole week has been dominated by talk of strategy and nothing else. But yeah, it's good. People are saying it's about the most fascinating Open. Like McGinley was saying it last night, Butch Harmon was saying it, that it's like the most fascinating Open setup they can remember, because it opens up so many possibilities. We've never seen Carnoustie like this at all.
When you're talking about it opening up possibilities, you mean for anybody to come from the field and just decide that they know how to play this and strategy is more important than skill?
Yeah, so basically Harrington said on Tuesday that he's not sure if this is going to be the easiest British Open of all time or the most difficult British Open of all time, in a kind of typical Harrington overthinking everything kind of a way. So there's players driving Barry Byrne at 18, which is about 400 yards away on Monday. Tiger Woods said he hit a 2-iron about 333 yards. So, in short, it's opening up possibilities for the bombers, so the likes of Brooks Koepka and Dustin Johnson and McIlroy. They're looking at the course, and they're looking at the fact that there's not as much gorse bushes there as there were in 99. And they're just looking at the run, and they're kind of thinking maybe there's a chance we can overpower this course. Equally, the smart strategists are looking at the fact that they can literally, on long par fours, take a 6-iron off the tee, and the ball is bouncing. On some holes on flat terrain, it's running on for 100 yards, which is just ridiculous. So a lot of the shorter hitters are also looking at Carnoustie and thinking, I can get around here with iron. Like Jay Townsend last night was saying that the word is that Tiger Woods is going to hit just one driver all day. Now, Dustin Johnson and Brooks Koepka and some of the longer hitters, like I said, think they're willing to dabble with the danger. They think if they carry that bunker, they'll run on another 100 million yards and get close to the green. And they kind of think the rough, given the weather conditions as well, isn't going to be so thick. It's certainly not as thick as 99. I'm not too sure about 2000. The weather was different in 2000. But you have, like I said, the strategists and the bombers both looking at the course and both thinking, hey, maybe this sets up okay for me and it's not going to be the horrible Carnoustie that we've seen in the past. And, you know, Shane Lowry was sceptical. So I have the quote from Lowry. he was asked about the fact that the Bombers, for the first time, are looking at Carnoustie liking it. And he said, I think people have a misconception of how this is going to play. I think it's going to be a lot harder than people are seeing in practice. The greens are going to dry out. The course is like a runway out there. So I think the guys who want to hit driver everywhere, let them go ahead. And if I'm wrong, obviously I'll eat my words at the end of the week. Like, the speed of the greens is important, because if you bomb your drive and you're in the rough, which is okay, 50, 60, 70 yards, at the moment you can hold those greens. They're kind of receptive. They're that bit slower. But if they get a bit quicker, or if the wind picks up and it's harder to hold greens, then being in the rough becomes more of a penalty. It's harder to get spin on your ball and hold the greens. But certainly in practice this week, the Bombers were in the rough and they were able to bounce it onto the greens and hold the greens. And suddenly, you know, they're talking 150, 160 yard advantage on the shorter strategy type play. So, yeah, I can't remember an Open like it where all anyone has talked about is strategy and more strategy. It's been that kind of a build-up.
To what extent then, Joe, would there be an element of groupthink involved in the strategy over the next couple of days, that if you're one of the players lower down the ranks and you see Rory McIlroy and Tiger Woods both taking out irons, there's a chance that you might abandon your driver strategy and just say, well, the big guys are all taking out the 5-iron, I'm going to follow them?
Yeah, for sure. I think today's going to be absolutely fascinating in that respect. If all the Bombers come in and they're doing very well, then some of the other lads are going to have to start thinking about taking out the big stick, because clearly it's a viable tactic. And that's where the groupthink will probably kick in. Today will be really instructive in that respect, and no one's quite sure how it's going to work out, actually. I mean, Larry is voicing his concerns there. Peter Lowry yesterday on Golf Weekly, he was saying he's not buying this notion that suddenly Carnoustie is going to be overpowered. But it remains to be seen. As Shane Lowry said, he could be eating his words on Sunday, and if the big boys today go out and get a big start, get a head start, it's a really tough course to catch people on until you get to the final 4 holes, but that's another story.
Yeah, I heard a bit of Peter Lowry actually when he talked you through those final 4 holes, and they do sound like they are the stuff of nightmares. And of course, famously, this is the stuff of nightmares for Sergio Garcia and Van de Velde in particular. And I guess, nearly. Padraig Harrington must have some nightmares too, where he wakes up and goes, oh, geez, I'm really glad that one ended okay for me. But what's the Van de Velde situation at this point? Have people kind of come to fully understand exactly what happened?
Well, so, I mean, look, Carnoustie is an amazing golf course, and it's seen as very fair. Like, you're talking Harrington, obviously, in 07, Van de Velde, and then the previous winners are Tom Watson, who beat Johnny Miller, 2 pretty handy players, and then you're going Gary Player, and then you're going Ben Hogan, who famously won 1 British Open, the only one he ever played in. That was in 53. That was in Carnoustie. So the roll of honour list here is amazing. So it's not like it's unfair or it gets freak winners, but 99 is maybe the anomaly. Like Van de Velde, the short version, it's a long time ago now, I guess. He was leading by 3 shots on 18 and hit driver and flared it out into... He got lucky with it. His first shot was okay. The driver wasn't the end of the world, but then hit the grandstand, bounced back into rough, and then should have chipped out sideways, but chipped it into Barry Byrne and famously got into pulled up his trousers and took off his socks. And Peter Allis said he's gone gaga as he climbed into the water and thought about hitting out of the water. In the end, he actually made a brilliant 7 to get into the playoff, but his head was fried and hooked it away. The short version on the last 4 holes, 15 is incredibly difficult tee shot. Par 3 16th is very long. And then 17 and 18, by all accounts, are just miserably difficult. OB everywhere, water everywhere when you're under pressure. The Van de Velde thing, like, it's funny. He's done Sky Sports punditry over the last number of years, and he has a fairly, come see, come sa, such is life. I have great memories about the week kind of attitude. But it was really, he never won another major again. He never contended again. It was his big chance for, a place in history, really, when it came to golf. His ex-wife, Bridget, did an interview in the Sunday Times just this week with Nick Pitt, which was unbelievably interesting. Like, first of all, the day itself sounded horrific in that she was talking about how she was behind the tee on 18. She said, I wanted to shout par 5. In other words, play it as a par 5. You have a 3-shot lead. But I know a player's not allowed to accept advice from anyone except the caddy, so I just had to stand there. And she is a swing coach, so she said, I help him with a swing. And then, as Nick Pitt says, she says ruefully, his strategy and his course management. So she watches the whole thing unfold, and it's just, horrific. And she talks about at 18 afterwards, she was so upset for him, and she knew he was upset. But she was saying, like, it was getting dark, and they had to do a 4-hole playoff. So she had to run back to the hotel and get him some dry trousers. Because, you know, he'd literally got into Barry Bird. He was soaked, and she had to run back. And you can imagine, like, the deafening quietness of the hotel room after everything. It's like post-traumatic trauma almost. So she, you know, find him trousers, run back, gets the trousers to him. And she says, you know, there was no time to talk. I wanted to calm him down. I wanted to say whatever had happened, I was proud of him and proud of what he had done all week. You know, they never got that chance to talk, to reset. Suddenly he was straight out on the 15th. The last 4 holes again is the playoff. Hooks it left. He's gone, and it's miserable. So, but in short, it's gone down in infamy, and you watched him being interviewed, and he seemed really well adjusted to it. But what she says is actually very different. So he spends the next 2 years traveling around the PGA Tour, and there are 2 girls with them, and they travel together. And she says, we were young, we had lots of money, we had the girls, but Jean was not happy. The joy had gone. He never forgave himself for what happened at Carnoustie. He lost his love of the game. And their marriage broke up within 2 years, is the other thing I didn't actually realise. So this happened in 99. By 2002, their marriage was over. She puts it down to that in the interview. I'm sure if you talk to Jean Mandeville, maybe he's got a different perspective on things. He might have said, you know, nothing to do with that. But it's a fairly sad postscript to things. And yeah, her take on it is he lost his love of the game. He never forgave himself. Now, the mad thing is, yesterday on the Sky Zone, I mean, they're making almost a gimmick out of it where he's doing an interview and they play, you know, No Regrets, and they get him to replay the 18th on the Sky Zone monitor, and he's like laughing and it's all fun. So you don't know for sure, but you read her account of things, you suspect he's probably just putting a brave face on things. But look, that's the madness at Carnoustie. And McGinley said last night, this thing can have a 5-shot swing with 3-4 holes to go, with 2 holes to go. Like, the mad things happen here. And we've had the last 4 Opens, honestly, have been as good a sport as anything you'll see. Last year, Spieth making that mad bogey in 13, battle of Phil Mickelson and Stenson. You've just had unbelievable drama over the last couple of years. So this kind of lends itself to that as well.
Tragedy plus time equals comedy, though. That's why Vandal, probably 15 years on from the breakup of the marriage, at least can kind of go, it's fine now, everything's calm. I hope they're all still mates. Are they still mates? Was there a...
They have 2 daughters, so I hope so.
Yeah. All right. Pick winners for us, will you? Because Peter Lawrie had some pretty interesting names.
Well, for the first time, serious people are talking about Tiger. So this week, independently of each other, Butch Harmon said he thinks Tiger will do it this week. Brandel Chambly said he thinks Tiger will do it this week. Hank Haney said he thinks he'll do it this week. Peter Lawrie yesterday also said he thinks Tiger will do it this week. They just love the fact that, look, Tiger hits 50% of fairways with a driver. Yeah. It's like you just can't do that. So if suddenly he's on every fairway because he's hit an iron, and I watched him in his practice round last night, Sky showed a lot of it, he just hit irons off the tee. So people are saying Tiger has a big chance. I mean, if you just take a broad look at the betting, is maybe the best thing. I'll open it here. So Dustin Johnson is the favourite. US Open, he should have won. Putt didn't drop for him at all on Sunday. Kind of the pressure got to him. So he's the favourite. Have it here. Yeah, Justin Rose is second. Again, I really fancied Rose for Shinnecock. Second shot golf course. He's a brilliant iron player. Precision. He's going to be thereabouts, even though his record isn't amazing in the Open. Then you've Ricky Fowler next. Everyone says Ricky Fowler has to win a major. He's got an okay-ish record at the Open. It's exaggerated. Like, he was second to Patrick Reed at Augusta. He's been 3 times a runner-up in majors, 8 times in the top 5. He was second to McIlroy in 2014. But last year he was 22nd. He was 46th in 2016. He was 30th at St Andrews. Missed the cut the year before that. I don't know. I think his record is exaggerated-ish. Now, he did do well when Darren Clark won as well. But look, Fowler has to win a major soon. But people who tell you he's got a great Open record. Yeah. It's not that great. McIlroy 16-1. We can say a word about him in a second. Spieth 18-1. Spieth's like 180 in the putting. This is going to be a full calendar year since he won a tournament. I don't think you can touch him, even though he's capable of miracles. But I wouldn't. John Rahm has a big chance. He's going to win a major soon. Loves links golf. Tommy Fleetwood's 18s. Shot a 63 on Sunday at the US Open. He's going to win a major soon. Brooks Koepka has a massive chance finally then. Koepka's record is absolutely insane, and we never really talk about him. So he's just won the US Open gone by. He won the US Open the year before that. He was 6th at the Open last year. He was 4th at the US PGA in 2017. Missed this year's Masters with injury, but he was 11th at last year's Masters. So in short, Brooks Koepka in the last year His worst finish in a major is 11th, and he's won 2 of them.
Yeah, it's not bad, is it?
It's an unbelievable record. So, that brings you to 18-20 to 1 territory. Francesco Molinari, Peter Lorry doesn't think is a great links player. People will be looking at Molinari around 25 to 1 because he's in amazing form at the moment, but they're not sure about his links play. And like Garcia, who's along with Woods on 25 to 1, has a great open record, loads of top 10s. Henrik Stenson has an elbow injury, 25 to 1 former winner, really good links player. Wouldn't have played this week if it wasn't an open. So it remains to be seen how smashing his club off really hard turf again and again helps his elbow.
Beware the injured golfer, though, as Harrington always says. One last question. We didn't mention Rory yet. I mean, it seems like what you basically said about Jordan Spieth holds a little bit for McIlroy as well. If the putts drop, he's going to win this thing, because anytime the putts drop for him, he's going to win. But there's no sign, no evidence that the putts are going to drop.
I checked last night. Putting 10 feet or less, he's 132nd on tour. 10 to 15 feet, he's 114th. And 15 to 20 feet, he's 120th. There's just no good news there. There just isn't. Like, how can you back a guy with those stats? And at Ballyliffin, watching the body language even off camera, the shoulders are slumped. Brad Faxon, the guy's been doing some putting work with, emailed him about his body language because it's so bad on the greens. It's half the time you think he's misreading them, and then the other half the time you think they're bad strokes. He said after one of the rounds, when he had 34 putts, he should be having like 26, 27. He was saying it's a mixture of both. That's a bad combination.
But get a caddy who can read them. Is there no blame for him picking a caddy who's his mate? I know he's a good club golfer, but pick somebody who's actually got 25 years of reading greens, who knows all these greens, who's been at Carnoustie 4 times. Do all the things you can do.
It's a very legitimate point. Yeah, very legitimate point. Lots of people make that point. And it's harsh on Harry Diamond, who hasn't asked for any of this criticism, but I think it's a very legitimate point. It's something he should try, isn't it?
Yeah.
What is the harm at this stage in trying? Now, look, the one hope for Rory is, say the Bombers have struck gold. He's one of the best bombers ever. So then maybe he gives himself a ton of chances. Look, he's won one of these things before, but he was putting a lot better then. It's really, really hard to give him a big chance. But look, he's Rory McIlroy as well.
Joe, great stuff. Enjoy. Thanks a million.
All right, lads.
Joe, we'll be back with you, obviously. I don't know if there's a special Golf Weekly today. They did one, obviously, to preview yesterday. That full Peter Lorry interview is well worth your time. As I said a little bit earlier on, he's been strolling around the range, chatting with caddies and getting some inside information. So he definitely had some interesting tips.
I do wonder with Rory, like obviously we're reading our own press over here, and I wonder what the newspapers who are big into golf over in the States, how do they view Dustin Johnson? Because he's favourite going into all these tournaments. He's got one major to his name. He hasn't won since 2016 in a major. Like,
he's made a lot of money and he's got a major. So
he's a real underachiever here. When Rory McIlroy's got a serious problem with his putter, there's a very definite element of his game. Whereas who's the person actually choking to a certain extent here?
It's a fair point. Him and Ricky Fowler, obviously. Brandon Grace at 33 to 1 was the other one that Peter Lorry had tipped. He'd been chatting to his caddy and said he was really good. So anyway, we're going to speak with Anthony Moyles about the Club Players Association in 1 minute. First, here's Andy Lee and how he sized up potential opponents.
Interesting, like even with my own career, if I ever had an opponent and I wasn't sure, I'd always ask my wife to look at him. Look at his fights and give me your opinion. I value their opinion. It's funny because, obviously it's the most intimate relationship you have.
Sure.
As much as I live with my coaches, it was my wife who I'd always ask, and I would always value her opinion on my. So I'm sure there's.
And would she be a boxing expert? Would she know her boxing?
Yeah, she as throughout our relationship, she gathered she grew and got to learn and know the sport. And I think there's probably a great podcast interviewing the wives of sports people or successful sports people. Because.
So you'd ask her maybe to look at your fights, as in size this guy up for me.
Always. Yeah.
Always?
Yeah, always. No matter who it was.
And what were her... I presume her reports weren't overly technical. Was it about her just...
No, she would know what she's talking about.
Did they often differ from Adams or your coaches?
Never really, or never really too far from my thoughts. And maybe some of it was reassurance that what I was seeing was right.
Right.
Yeah, but she would always say, his legs, or he's got bad legs, or he doesn't move his legs, or he lifts his chin when he jabs, or,
And did she know boxing before you two met?
No.
And she just picked up that much knowledge that you would value her opinion?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's impressive. So you obviously watched a lot of boxing.
Yes, she did. And she still continues to watch. Probably watches more than I do these days.
So saying she's going to be the coach and you're just going to sit back.
Yeah. So when I'm coaching fighters, I'll be leaning on her again.
Jeez, that's amazing. Yeah.
All right, let's talk about the Club Players Association. Anthony Moyles is with us. Good morning to you, Anthony. How you doing?
Morning, gents.
So you guys released the results of a survey yesterday, and also two other very key bits of news about a big new signing for the CPA, and also about your plans, your very specific plans for what you want to happen next. Before we get to the bits of news, talk us through the results of the survey, because I think it fundamentally reflects in detail what a lot of people out there had kind of been feeling in the ether, but now there's concrete evidence for the number of club players who believe that Croke Park as an entity has separated itself from the rank and file membership of the GAA.
Yeah, well, I don't think, it's a massive surprise, I suppose, Ger, in the sense of, we saw the whole kind of debacle with Newbridge or Nowhere, in the weeks kind of leading up to it. And I suppose a lot of the kind of, attention around that and probably the reaction around that was this idea of discontent and this idea of, do the hierarchy in the GAA, are they really clued into what's happening on the ground, be it supporters or whatever it was, just GAA people. So, I expected that number to be pretty high. I didn't think it would be as high as it was from the respondents. And yeah, I suppose it just does show that club players are just saying to themselves, well, look, it's a situation where I'm continuing on this kind of, wheel, just going around and around and around every year, things being changed, chopped and changed, and all those other things that we know so much about, and we don't need to kind of keep going on about. But it certainly does show that, that the feeling is still out there, and it's probably growing even more and more, as time passes. For
anybody who missed it, what were the results of the survey? What was the general thrust of it?
Well, you had 96%, as you say, with regard to being disgruntled, or not disgruntled, but feel that there's a disconnect. We kind of asked another kind of two questions, really about the season itself, whether people wanted a kind of a split season or a segmented season. So the feeling was do club players want the kind of the situation that's been happening at the moment, where kind of April is being seen as this club month. And I think an awful lot of people would have felt, and from an awful lot of conversations we've had, that the April thing didn't work. It worked in some counties, but it didn't work in other counties. The GAA, we would feel, probably dropped the ball and had an opportunity to set it in stone and to kind of say, listen, the April thing is going to be a club month, and if you don't abide by the rules, well, then there will be sanctions. So as soon as they kind of said, well, listen, we leave it up to the individual counties, well, then individual counties, of course, ran with that. And you would probably say inter-county managers who had fixtures coming up in May decided, well, I'm not going to release fellas, or whatever it was. So it wasn't really, before the April thing, people were saying, oh, the CPA want the April thing. That was only part of one of our, kind of plans. So it wasn't really something that we were hanging our hat on. But if it was to work, we felt that there was a requirement, obviously, to have it, that it was going to be set, and there would actually be, as I say, ramifications, there'd be sanctions, there'd be something along the lines of, that you need to try to instill this and still give your inter-county manager plenty of time. Because let's be honest, most inter-county managers have teams now from November on. So you have November, January, December, January, February, March. You have 5 months prior to April comes along to get your team in some kind of shape. And then you would still have a couple of weeks, obviously, and you could still actually train them during April if you needed to. So, I suppose the feeling was the question was asked, well, do you want that kind of situation again, or would you like it completely split? So in other words, that you actually have an inter-county season and then you have a club season. And definitely the not by a massive percentage, but still by a significant enough percentage, players responded in the sense of that they would rather actually their season to start, that yes, some inter-county players would be missed for some part of the season, but then essentially from your August on, when the inter-county season completely finished, your championship would start. Certainly that's one that I would personally prefer, because I just think
no championship, no club championship until the inter-county season is over. So none of this, a few games in April and then everything's on hold until September.
Correct. So you'd essentially, let's say, if you were talking about, say, here in Meath, you might start training back. You might get lads out in March, Ger. You know, you might start your kind of pre-season in March, and you do probably 4-6 weeks, and then you'd have your league matches. Like in Meath, we have a thing called the Fesh Cup, which is senior teams versus intermediate teams. I'm sure there's lots of other counties, so you could have those cup competitions, and then you could build through. You might even be able to do star games within the league that you have to have inter-county players back for. You know, 3 or 4 games at a certain period of time. You could do that in April, for example, at the start. You know, and then you basically have your championship set and ready to go. And obviously, you know, if your county team gets knocked out a bit earlier than August, if they're gone, say, at the start of July, you could bring things forward a bit or set yourself a bit more room in the calendar to make sure that there's no overlapping at all. And give, obviously, say, a dual player a bit more time off. Because at the moment, you know, even in Meath, dual players are out. Like, there's championship matches on this Thursday, this Friday, and then the following week there's county or club or Gaelic football championship matches on. Already after, so these guys have been literally playing kind of nearly 7-8 weeks in a row. They'll end up playing. Now that's fine, but it doesn't need to be that way. And they're being pulled and dragged. So I certainly think that one of, you know, you start in March. And basically you're finished kind of, you know, September, October, depending on how well your club championship goes.
There's a piece on the back of the Irish Independent this morning, Anthony, that says that there's still a possibility perhaps this year for the All-Ireland football and hurling finals to be pushed back to September. By the way you're talking there, it seems that the CPA wouldn't move in that direction at all. If anything, you would push them earlier.
Absolutely. I read that piece, Eoin, you know, and it's talking about, I think Martin Breheny, I think it was him who wrote that piece, was it?
Yeah.
And you know, I think when you go back to the Super 8, he was kind of anti-Super 8 purely for, he thought that there was, well, maybe it wasn't his only reason, but certainly it was one of his reasons, that he thought that there was promotional opportunities that were going to be lost, that he felt that there was, you know, that September was a kind of a GAA month, and that, you know, there wasn't much other activity going on, so there wasn't, you know, soccer, you know, there wasn't, you know, if it was a World Cup year, the World Cup would be finished. If it was rugby or whatever it is, you know, if it was even racing or something like this. So he felt that was a special time. And yes, okay, you could take that view, but, you know, I think there's enough people who watch sports and watch multi-sports that I don't really truck along with that opinion. You have to bring it forward. If you're certainly going to do a season that we think, and certainly the CPA members would prefer, and it'd be interesting to see, do inter-county GPA members prefer it? Because that'll be a really interesting one if that comes out. That you will have to move those All-Irelands forward. It'll just have to happen, because if you kick them out of September, which then, you know, some teams will have to wait September, October, and then you're back into the status quo that we've had for donkey's years.
Yeah, so let's change it. Let's see what happens. Let's move on. There's 2 other things.
I tell you one thing, Ger. Sorry, but you know, it's funny. Some of those articles don't come out for you know, as you know, they come out for a reason. Sometimes they just get put out there into the ether. Kind of, you know, I would say, and it's rolling on. You know, kind of going back to the conversation this week, which is happening a lot about the Super 8s. You know, I think the GAA, I'd say, are fairly worried about the attendances and stuff, and they may see that the final, be it the All-Ireland hurling final or the All-Ireland football final especially, is really the only major spectacle that could potentially be there, where you get an 85,000-90,000 people, or, you know, full capacity in Croke Park. Because most certainly, you know, even I think in the last games, which will end up in Croke Park, there's going to be a lot of dead rubbers there. They're going to, like, I mean, I'll be amazed if they get anything like even the attendances they got last week, unless there's something major on the line. And even at that, I'm scratching around to see. So then, you know, you're into a situation where you may only have one particular game of the year where Croke Park is full. And, you know, maybe this discussion about moving it into September is someone has probably raised the flag of saying, well, you know, we need to make it like the Super Bowl. We need to make it like a major event in the calendar, and there's a bit of a build-up, maybe a 2 or 3 or 4 week period of build-up, or 3 week period of a build-up, and we, you know, instead of cutting down the build-up, that you actually make this and you try to milk it for as much as you possibly can.
Yeah, I mean, there's loads of fixes to that, including getting rid of the provincial championships and actually using the full width of May to the end of August and having games over a regular basis. But we won't get into that right now, because there's 2 other things that I wanted to talk to you about. You do have a solution, and you've come with a suggested solution to the fixtures issue, and that's like not actually having a prescribed solution, but let's start with a blank sheet of paper and get all of the relevant stakeholders, and I thought very interestingly, people from outside the GAA to come along and have this conversation where everybody comes with no bias, they come with their own ideas, and you write those down and try and come with an agreed solution that everybody can get behind.
Well, you know, in every walk of life, Jared, if you want to go get advice on something that you're starting out, be it a business, you know, whatever it is, generally you will seek, or you should seek, some kind of an outside consultant or an outside influence who will come at it from a completely different point of view, and who doesn't necessarily have skin in the game, you know, understands, yes, the GAA and how it works, but is not involved in, shall we say, GAA administration, or involved in county boards, or involved in any of that stuff. So, as you say, has no real baggage with them. But they can come in and say, well, actually, you know, yes, this is the best solution, or I would back this, or whatever it is, or that has to change, or whatever it is. And that is 100% required. Like, I mean, you know, at the moment, there's these fixture analysts who are going out to the different counties. So every county would have a fixture analyst. And the idea there is that they would sit down and they would observe how the fixtures in the clubs went for the year. So they'd sit there and say, oh, actually, yeah, the clubs worked. You know, the club championship fixtures in Kildare worked fairly well. There wasn't that many stoppages. But, you know, most of those people, and okay, maybe that's it. Maybe that's too strong of a statement. But I would suspect that a number of those people are people who are already known to the county board, or who have been put into that role, you know, by a specific person to do that role, albeit, yes, they're doing it probably as honestly and as forthrightly as they can, but there has to be a bias there, you know. So if you got someone who comes in and just basically throws a very cold eye look at the whole thing and says, okay, we need to sit down, we need to absolutely take people from different walks of life, people from within the GAA, people from outside the GAA, we sit down with the blank canvas and we say, right, where do we start here? You know, you get your blueprints, you get your, we're not saying about the CPA, what we've decided, or we have down, what Liam Griffin and Derek Cavan and the boys have put down is the panacea. But there's reams and reams and reams. You get fellas on Twitter there saying, this is what I think the championship should be like, this is what I think. But until you actually sit down and you overlay the thing, and you sit down with a complete blank canvas, this incremental change of changing this, pushing the All-Irelands forward, back, up, down, in, out, it's an absolute disaster. And you have to start with the blank canvas. And I honestly think that, you know, Tom Ryan and the new president, Horan, will be, I think, hopefully, you know, kind of, you know, partial to that, because I think they will feel that this is the way to go. You know, we've had a number of conversations with them. They have been very, very positive conversations, I have to say. You know, and the lads have been very, very positive about the requirement. They understand there is a requirement for it. And hopefully that's the way to do it. Because I think if you just go with the CCCC and, you know, you try to fix it from within, I think it's clouding your judgment, and I also think it's closing your mind to the possibilities that may be out there. And again, as I say, to, you know, some third parties who will actually say to you that's not right. Well,
look, I mean, to echo the point, it was interesting to see that you've appointed Joan Keogh to the organisation. You might tell us about her involvement with the GAA, who themselves have gone outside when they needed to make the most important appointment potentially in the history of the GAA. They themselves looked outside for somebody to help them with that process, and now you guys have got her involved with you.
Yeah, well, Joan is a lady that I've known for a number of years from business circles, but she's a Wexford lady originally, so she knows Liam Griffin really well. And Joan has, you know, obviously had conversations with Liam over various different things. They know each other well. I think their families know each other very well. So she was intrigued at what the CPA were trying to do. She's heavily involved with Kilmacud Crokes, as you probably know, and you know, she's obviously steeped in it. You know, I think her daughter plays on the Dublin Camogie team, so she's a lady who wanted to get involved and obviously wanted to kind of try to, you know, rectify a situation that she saw happening, or at least help. And when you say, you know, outside help, you know, it was good for us first of all, to get a female representation on the executive, of course, of the CPA, but also to get her obviously her intelligence, her desire, you know, her acumen as a business lady, and obviously her passion for the GAA. So it was great for us to get her on board. You know, and yes, she was. It was kind of like, and by the by, you know, it was kind of nearly not because of it, but just it was a situation that she was obviously involved in the selection committee for the new DG. So she was asked to come in. I think by maybe John Costello maybe said that she should come in and come onto the panel. And obviously the GAA, to be fair to them, decided yes that they wanted to bring someone outside in, which was a good move by them. So it shows that, you know, that the GAA are open to this, and I would, you know, hope and feel that by even doing that for the DG job, that they saw the benefit of doing it, and hopefully they would say, well, listen, there is a benefit of bringing someone from outside the circle in, so maybe we need to apply the same rules for the fixtures.
Yeah, well, hopefully it has a knock-on impact when you all go to eventually, hopefully, have this forum that you're suggesting with the blank sheet of paper. Anthony, great stuff. Thanks very much for joining us this morning.
No bother, lads. Talk to you.
Anthony Moyles talking to us about the CPA and the fixtures situation. I think we can go to the Open now. Neil Treacy is standing by to talk to us. No, we'll get to him in 1 minute.
Just on that Anthony was talking about the idea of the 1 month for club-only fixtures. Like the idea of a club-only process has worked in areas, as he said. It was different for everybody. But I think the main reason why it didn't work for some counties is because some county teams were just playing too early in May. Like the one county that nailed it in April was Kerry. And that was because they didn't play their first game until June. The June bank holiday weekend, they were the last team out in the football championship, which meant they got their entire club championship played off in the month of April. The reason why they managed to use every day in April was because the inter-county manager wasn't calling the players a week or two before May saying, listen, you need to get back for an early championship game. So if it's uniform that way, where the championship doesn't start until whatever the second week of May, then maybe you can have a six or seven club only period where it doesn't have to be a month only. A month is just a little bit too short. But the idea worked for some counties, particularly Kerry.
Can I ask you though, if Kerry end up getting beaten this weekend and go out of the championship as early as this, and next year they're out in the middle of May? No. Do you know what happens then at that point? Is that, we did everything wrong last year, we have to throw the baby out with the bathwater. So
that's a key point.
Okay, so we will get to the Open in just 1 minute. First though, Off the Bench is this week focusing on our hockey team. Here's a clip. The Irish women's hockey side are in action in the Hockey World Championships this weekend in London. Amazing dexterous response there from Eoin, who spilled his cup but caught it before it hit the ground. Here's Nikki Evans, Roisin Upton and captain Katie Mullen discussing whether or not female athletes are taken as seriously as their male counterparts.
I'd say right now we're probably not quite there yet, but I do see a transition in the way people are viewing females at elite.
Why? When? What makes you think that?
I just think, you know, going back, it wasn't maybe the most attractive thing to be seen as being strong and physical, whereas I think there is a transition there. I know, you know, in schools especially, you can see the kids now are getting more into the gym as young females and things, whereas maybe that wasn't seen when we were in school. And I think also, as you touched on, like there's so many skills that are transferable, and when you go into, I think when you get into a position where you're speaking to a potential employer and you can share some of your stories with them, then they start to realise that the skills that are transferable, and you know, you can talk about, as Nikki said, any high pressure situation that you've had to deal with in the sporting world.
Best of luck to the women's hockey team in action this weekend. Let's go to the golf. Neil Treacy is standing by for a quick update. Neil, it's looking burnt and scorched earth out there.
Yeah, Ger, but the greens are actually looking fantastic, which is going to make things very interesting. But I got out there 6:30 for the first tee this morning. Sandy Lyle got things underway just after 6:30. So I got there and actually watched the first tee off shots, and you could actually see them way down the fairway. Like as soon as they hit the ground, they're just absolutely hopping and taking off down there. Now, Rory McIlroy later on, he's teeing off just before 1 o'clock. He's kind of hinted that he's going to be quite aggressive today, and he's going to try to take driver off quite a few of the tees, because as he says, the the rough either side of the fairways in large parts, it's long, but it's not that thick, so it's quite thin, and you actually still do have a shot out of it, even if you do hit it. But at the moment, Eric Van Rooyen, who actually did so well at the Irish Open 2 weeks ago in Ballyliffin, he's leading at the moment on 3 under par. It's his first time here at the Open Championship, and he actually birdied his very first 2 holes of Open Championship golf to get off to a flyer, and then added another one on the 6th. Danny Willett is second at the moment. He's on 2 under par. Of the Irish out there at the moment, Paul Dunn has played at 5 holes. He is level par. He made a bogey on the first after he found a bit of trouble off the tee, went right, and then got plugged in a bunker just on the green side and ended up making a bogey. But he did hit back with a good birdie on the second hole. Shane Lowry, he's 1 over par after 4. It was on the second hole he made his birdie. It was just found a fairway bunker and just couldn't recover from there. But later on today, Padraig Harrington, one of the later starters, he's out just before 3 o'clock. Tiger Woods out just after 3 o'clock. But it does look at the moment that there are a lot of birdies to be made out there. A lot of players hanging in there around 1 under par. Danny Willett, as I said, is 2 under. You've got Rafa Cabrera Bello. Andy Sullivan was up there around 1 under last time I checked a couple of minutes ago as well. So there are a lot of birdies to be had out there, but still a long way to go here early on Thursday morning.
Neil, great stuff. Thanks very much. Neil Treacy over at the Open for Off the Ball all this week. You'll hear him, of course, right across all of our platforms on the sports news bulletins across Today FM, 98 FM, Spin Southwest, and of course on News Talk as well. You were talking about Gary Player and Brian O'Driscoll. What was going on?
Yeah, great video on the Open social channels, I presume. I can't remember where I saw it. It's Gary Player showing Brian O'Driscoll his daily workout, where
doing push-ups,
treadmill, does this thing where he holds a golf club, I don't have a bio to show you, but with his 2 fingers like that, and the golf club is just between him, and he can hold 2 irons like that, and Brian O'Driscoll was just struggling to hold one up, and like O'Driscoll kind of rightly refers to the player as probably the fittest 82-year-old in the world.
82, wow.
And like he's like squatting on the greens with perfect form, like flying on the treadmill better than you or I would ever be able to go on a treadmill right now. So it makes you kind of look deep inside your own soul about what you're doing in your own life when you see Gary Player flying it at the age of 82. It's a great video. I'd recommend checking it out.
You've had that happen to you a couple of times this week. Phil Healy, now Gary Player, the opposite ends of their respective athletic careers. You're like, yeah. Who was it? There was somebody this week particularly who was like, what did you do in second year in college? Who was that?
Gina Akpa-Moses.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's been a chastening week as we've surrounded ourselves with sporting greatness. The HSBC sporting social channels, by the way, is where you'll see that video. A reminder, of course, that OTBAM is live with Screwfix.ie, championing the trade with a choice of over 20,000 quality trade products. Loads of comments coming through, some of them about the golf. We'll get to the club jerseys in a minute. We'll do these golf comments first. Peter Roach about Tiger Woods. Every tournament people are talking about him. Every tournament he didn't play in, still people spoke about him and what his absence means. He won't win, but he'll still be the most talked about golfer next tournament too. I guess, Peter, the point is that for the first time in a long time, people are making a realistic case for him to win this tournament. Now, I don't think it's going to happen. Did stick a 5 each way on him, just on the off chance that...
Yeah, Gary Player made a very interesting point actually as well, talking, not in that video, but in the press this morning, that the kids will want Tiger Woods to win, that it will be good for the youth of the game if Tiger Woods wins, which is extraordinary to think really that, what is he, 42 years old?
Yeah.
That it'll take a 42-year-old to actually capture the imagination of young people watching golf everywhere. Like, I'm not sure if I agree with that. Like, I think a Rory win or...
And Eoin and the sex addiction and the crazy apology and the injuries and the neck surgery and the Navy SEALs and all the other stuff and finding out about his dad, and it's like all that massive global icon story.
So you're a 14-year-old sitting at home. How does that impact on your view of Tiger Woods?
Like, wow, I finally got to see Tiger Woods. I now understand that he was
even
once
know
a
what
golfer.
Happened? Like, have you been, like, when you were, this all kicked off, what,
every
7 years ago?
Like,
so you were 7 years old following the car situation and following the soap opera of Tiger Woods' life over the last few years. I'm not sure how that impacts on a child's or a young teenager's view of the golf if they're sitting down watching their first major tournament this week, or one of their first major tournaments.
Well, because the nostalgia industry has made sure that they've, like, seen the... In your life, have you seen anything? They've seen all the Tiger Woods stuff. There's been a massive... Nike have made sure that we understand... Every generation understands exactly who this guy is in the pantheon of greats. And also, you've been told forever that this is the greatest golfer after Jack Nicklaus, and maybe he's even better than Nicklaus, because really, How many other people did Nicklaus have to beat? 3? Whereas Tiger Woods changed the game.
Well, like, I'm kind of being devil's advocate to a certain extent, because like when I was watching my first majors, I was like, Tiger, Tiger, Tiger. And if maybe to a certain extent, Harrington winning in 07 got me more excited than Tiger winning his last major. But that's the only moment I can really pinpoint. But that's different Tiger, you know, like he has drifted off the competitive radar. Not drifted off the public radar, but drifted off the competitive radar on tour for the last few years. And I don't know, maybe it's kind of I'm not sure, is it a sad indictment of where the sport is at, that it needs Tiger to win? Or maybe that's just realism. Maybe he's just a superstar that the sport will never be able to step away from. And like, I think Rory McIlroy winning this weekend would do a similar thing for the youth that is watching.
I mean, the American youth is like youth all around the world. Who was saying it, sorry? Player. Okay. Well, I don't know how in touch Gary Player is with the Fortnite generation.
Well, I'm barely in touch with the Fortnite generation, to be honest with you.
What's that celebration? Kildare365 says, at what point do we just accept Rory didn't become as good at golf as everybody thought he would? The attention he gets is quite boring at this stage. And the next one is along the same line. David Nash says, the question with Rory these days is, will he make the cut? He earned too much money too quickly. The hunger is gone. I mean, I don't think it's boring. I don't think Rory's boring. I think it's a really compelling story. And I really hope he does get back to the same level of competitive brilliance that he was at. But as Joe pointed out, his putting's gone to shit. And so therefore, he is in trouble.
Yeah, well, once your putting goes to shit, you are screwed. That's not the old saying, but it's going to be the new saying. It's going to be the Rory McIlroy saying. The question about the caddy is a very valid one. Like, it's clearly not a talent thing. It's clearly not a matter of Rory not being able to use his putter properly. It's clearly in how he's reading the greens. It might be a mental issue. Who knows?
I think that like he could be. There's a possibility that he could read those putts perfectly and still not make them.
But do you not think that you get to a certain level where your putting has got so bad that the pressure is almost taken off you completely? Like, he's been consistently awful with the putter over the last few tournaments. It's not like he's choking when it matters.
That's the definition of the yips, really.
Maybe it is, yeah, maybe it is. But does it feel like the yips? It feels like bad lines being read time and time again, which maybe that is the definition.
Traditionally,
of
the yips meant you miss short putts from like this distance and this distance and this distance. But like McIlroy used to, as a matter of course, when things were going well, make long putts. His putting yips, that like maybe we need to reconsider what the definition of the yips are. But I think it's a fair question at this point, and it doesn't get spoken about. Because
it's a bad word in golf.
Well, it's
very
like,
bad word.
If you know, it was post fact that Harrington explained to everybody, oh, you had the yips for a while. Everyone was like, well, I didn't like to say, but yeah, you just hope that whatever it is that's going on with Rory's putting, he fixed it, and I don't find it boring. And that's the thing. It's like you know, a lot of people didn't like McIlroy because of the whole Britain Ireland thing. I thought that was all overblown nonsense. Who gives a shit about the Olympics golf anyway? Let's move on. Let's not open that kind of worms. Brian Fury says the Dubs love coming to away matches en masse, and with so many tickets on sale online this week, the place will be blue with noisy Dubs. Tyrone fans are disillusioned the last few years and are of an age to not make much noise, so advantage back to the Jackeens. Brian, that's some kind of...
it's just an animal.
Yeah. Some kind of African...
It seems like it's something that should have antlers but doesn't have antlers.
To be able to tell exactly what that is.
Yeah, Oma will be hopping on Saturday night, to use that phrase. Healy Park's a great venue. It's a great venue for that sort of colossal volume. It may not be like the most aesthetically pleasing ground in the country, but who cares about that? All you care about is the atmosphere you get inside. Having been up there for a couple of league games, it's great, even for league matches. The Tyrone support are
Did you win those games?
Yes.
Both times?
Yes. Really 8 points at half-time, and then Tyrone came roaring back, and Kerry almost got relegated. But for the fact that I think Donegal lost in Croke Park and ended up getting relegated instead. So thanks to the Dubs for that one. It is like the Tyrone support, ironically, is a support that I actually really enjoy. I think they're great fans, and I think that them versus the Dublin fans is going to be a great cocktail of noise on Saturday night. It's going to be a fantastic occasion.
The Dubs are -4. Is that about right?
About right, I think. Like you can't overestimate just how dominant they were in that encounter last year, and not a lot has changed. Like you could use last weekend in Croke Park You could cite the Galway improvement in the space of 12 months to say that that's all nonsense. And Tyrone, like, they've got a better style of play, you would imagine, this year. Again, it hasn't been put to the litmus test, which is Dublin. That's when their style of play last year was proven to be fraudulent. But this year, you'd imagine that it's not. You would, and like it seems weird that we're already at this stage of the season and we're using phrases like you would imagine the style of play is not as bad as it was last year because there hasn't been the real test yet. We can't judge the style of play until the Saturday night.
Dublin to beat Tyrone is 5-1 for new recruits to Boyle Sports. Check out offtheball.com/Boyle Sports. Maximum stake is a tenner on that one. So if you think Dublin are going to win, you get 5-1, stick a tenner on it, and that will, and if that comes through, then that's not bad. Dublin, Donegal, Galway and Kerry to win is an enhanced price of 4-1 this weekend as an accumulator as well. That's an exclusive to Off the Ball users. Check out offtheball.com/Boyle Sports for that one. Now, we've been talking with some athletes this week. Thomas Barr is not in the Diamond League this week, or is in the Diamond League this week?
He's not going to run. He does. Sorry, we don't know, but I got the sense that he wasn't going to run in it. That he's going to train. His agent got offered a lane, but he took a lane a couple of weeks ago in Oslo. We'll bring that story to viewers tomorrow. You might have seen it as well, with him kind of getting a late call up to a Diamond League meeting in Oslo a few weeks ago, and it was good insight into how the Diamond League circuit works and how you get onto the Diamond League circuit. So that one's to come tomorrow. But as we said yesterday, Phil Healy is going to run in the Diamond League this Sunday, 1:30. That 4x100 relays on. So that's in London. So you'd imagine there'll be a decent support there as well, turning out for them. But it'll be just another chance to see.
It's in London. Sorry, I thought it was Monaco this week. But okay, it's in London, is it?
London, yeah.
Right. Okay, and so that is the 4x100. We looked it up. I couldn't tell from the document whether or not there was 2 heats and a semi-finals.
No, it's just one.
Straight through to a final?
Yeah, it's just one final. There's no heats in the 4x100. So.
And they have a team called the Superstars, I noticed.
Yeah, All Stars. And there is a US team and 2 Great Britain teams.
An Irish team.
An Irish team. The only country that you could say is on a level with Ireland in terms of not having top-class sprinting talent generation after generation is Denmark. The Netherlands are there, who would always be top-class. Obviously, Great Britain. I think Jamaica have a team. I can't remember. I don't have the start list in front of me. But it's just another great opportunity to see these young athletes in action. And I think it's going to be one of the first chances for them to see themselves in action because they haven't got a whole pile of practice. But who cares? You may as well just throw it in and just see how it turns out and then kind of fix the errors afterwards because you've got a great opportunity to take a lane in a top-class meeting this weekend.
Okay. Is there anything else you want to tell us on? Like today's a big day in your life?
Oh, jeez, yeah. Like Facebook does it again. Today's my birthday.
How old are you?
I forgot it. I actually...
Are you 25 today?
I'm not 25 today, no.
Oh, I thought you were.
No. I'll be 25 next year.
Ah, okay. So nearly a quarter of a century.
Yeah, I know. Mid-20s now, Ger.
Yeah.
It all...
Not really, 24.
It all turns down, you know.
24 still early 20s.
Thank you very much. That's what I wanted to hear.
You can cling on to that until like yesterday next year.
Great. Fantastic. So
still 24, what are you talking about?
I'll enjoy this for 364 more days, and then after that I'll just be a miserable soul for the rest of my life.
But that's the thing, it's actually, it gets way better. You think this is the peak and it's only going to go downhill from here on, but that's not true. This is actually...
Are you sure about that?
Yeah, no, totally. This in retrospect, it'll be like a few brief moments of things that you cling on to, and then you realise, oh, the rest of that was actually shit.
Yeah, like... What, drinking cheap cans of Dutch Gold? You're saying that shit?
Yeah.
I think that's
hour
beautiful.
after hour after hour of it. You realise, actually, that was a bit of a waste of my time.
I think it's poetic and perfect.
I could have gone travelling and met new people.
No, like all I do is look for the newest value offer on cans of Dutch Gold. That's all I look for.
And so where will you be drinking?
Honestly with you, I don't really celebrate the birthday. I'm not sure am I the only person who does that. I just can't be bothered. It's effort, isn't it?
Come on,
to try and organise something.
Are your mates doing something for you?
I haven't got anything planned here, honestly. I'm not, like I might do something this weekend, but I'll let you know if I am and you're all invited.
Yeah, and you can follow him on Instagram for details of that. And Snapchat too, or have you given up Snapchat?
I don't really use Snapchat that much, to be honest. Very, very rarely. It's only for people sliding into DMs now, I've figured, which just isn't my thing. It's your thing though, Ger.
What was that last bit, Tommy? We're nearly at the chorus. You see, we can't use any of the good happy birthday stuff because obviously they're copyright protected. So.
Best rule in the world.
Oh yeah, this is going to ruin our YouTube stream now. So we'll pull out 3 seconds and we'll claim it was fair use.
I'm not even going to give you the satisfaction of kind of reacting to that in a thank you sort of jubilant way. you know, it's just another day, Ger. Just going to keep the head down, focus on each result, focus on each coming team.
David Brady's in tomorrow. We'll get him to burst out of a birthday cake and sing happy birthday to you.
That'll be, actually, please do that.
Happy birthday, Mr. President, in that style.
Jesus Christ.
Wearing just that sash.
Oh, no. Oh, come on.
All right, so Nathan is presenting tonight from 7 o'clock. John Giles is in studio looking back at the World Cup, and also, I guess, at this point, starting to talk about some of the big narratives coming from the Premier League. But Oliver Dingley was the reason that we ended up in that roundabout conversation.
Yeah, it was kind of strange, wasn't it?
So through Thomas Barr, and you were out, obviously, talking to him. The Phil Healy story is up on YouTube. So get over to youtube.com/offtheball and subscribe to that. We got a little bit of insight into Oliver Dingley around about 2016, around the Olympic Games in Rio, and he's an Olympic diver. He's got an amazing backstory, and he also has a great story post-Rio. It's a difficult story, but it's one that he was very honest with in sharing with Eoin when they caught up just 2 days ago.
Okay, I'm delighted to say I'm joined by Irish diver Ollie Dingley. Ollie, how are things?
Not bad, thank you. Yourself?
Not too bad, thanks.
Good.
We were just speaking off air there that it's been a while since we've actually spoken to you on Off the Ball. We obviously had you in around Rio. I think we had you in last year, and it's the first time we've had you in 2018. We've been speaking to you this year. It's been a pretty good year for you so far.
I'm having a great year. It really has been a really good year, a really rewarding year as well. Outside the pool and my education and life in general, it's been an adventure, but it's actually been a very short season, but yeah, very rewarding. So it's hoping that carries on going into the European Championships coming up.
Absolutely, we'll chat about that in a moment, but first of all, it'd be great to just hear from you about what you are doing outside of the pool at the moment.
So, well, in September I started college. Now, when I left school when I was 18, I generally thought I was school over, never again. I wasn't a huge fan of school, but I was very lucky that I went to a very good high school, but no, I thought diving was the way forwards, and in September I felt like I needed to have a bit of a change, and I went back to education. I took on a challenge of education, and I took on film and broadcasting at Angel Street at DIT, and it's been absolutely fantastic. I went in there hoping to look more into the media aspect, but everything from script writing to creative writing to the audio was always great fun, the video content work, and just in general, just being in that learning environment has been fantastic. And I think that's really transcended into my diving as well, just having that kind of more rounded quality of life.
Yeah, I'm sure it has. Is this something you've always wanted to do, that area of expertise?
Yeah, I think so. I've always been interested in that and graphic design, but actually popping into you guys in the studio last year, I absolutely loved. I'm a regular listener to the show, and I have a car now. That's one of the other big changes for me. Is now I have a car. Dublin Port were very, very kind, and they sponsored me a car, and it's kind of given me a whole new lease of life, because I used to live on this campus and I've moved off campus now, and it helps me get into the city. So I'm always an avid listener to radio and podcasts. So that route down in college, I was very, very interested in going into.
Good stuff. So you've mentioned there all the different areas you're studying in that course at the moment. Is there any one thing you want to get into? Is it to be in broadcasting? Is it script writing? I'm sure it's too early.
Too early, yeah. No, I'm still kind of dipping my feet into the water and different things, and we haven't been entrusted with all the equipment yet. So we're newbies to it. I'm just finishing my first year now. I've actually got 2 exams to go.
Right.
The semester was nearly over, but I was away competing when we did our big exams. So I got those to happen when I get back from the European Championships, and then I'm on a holiday for a couple of weeks, hopefully, and then back into year 2.
And would the lecturers and your kind of colleagues be very accepting of the fact that you've got this huge competitive element in your life, and they give you a little bit of leeway here and there?
College has been fantastic, really, really good. And I'm on a sports scholarship scheme, and to be fair, I don't think half the people didn't really know what I did. So it was nice to go into an environment that was totally different to sport. And so everyone's pretty aware of my diving now, and the support has been fantastic. But it's been nice to kind of get out there. But yeah, college has been fantastic. The lecturers are fantastic. Just a really nice bunch of people to be around, as well as students. There's some 18-year-olds, some 19-year-olds, some people who are kind of late 20s. It's a nice mixture of people. So to be around in that environment, it's just been absolutely fantastic. To just the quality of life is just so much more rounded, and it has really been really positive going into my diving as well because of that.
Yeah, that's interesting. It's one of the things you wouldn't really think of, is the social element of
social life's great. Going to college, and now I'm very, very careful of how much socialising I do. But no, it's been absolutely fantastic, and like I said, I never wanted to go back to my education, and I looked to maybe going to university when I was younger, and I didn't think I was good enough to be able to balance both education and diving.
Why not?
And, I actually have dyslexia, like many people do, and I also a bit of lack of confidence, I think. It's one thing for me standing on a diving board. I'm actually I seem to do all right at that. So, but me kind of learning and sitting in a classy environment, I always found very, very stressful. So diving for me was always kind of like that bubble that if I found school stressful, I would go and do the diving later on in the day at 5 p.m. and it was kind of my bubble. It was something I was good at, something I'd enjoy. I always had a social life for the diving. So for me, school was always very stressful, whereas going back to it now when I'm a bit older, a bit more mature, it's actually been a breath of fresh air. And it's also a bit of a novelty for me as well, kind of going back into that environment. And I've really, really flourished, I felt like. And well, nearly 1 year down and 3 more to go. It's a 4-year course, a full-time college course with full-time diving as well. So it really is very lucky. And I'm able to do that because I'm also a carded athlete through Sport Island, which I'm very, very lucky to have. And we're here on the campus today, and you just go around and you can see all the amazing facilities. And I used to live on this campus, and I've more than many athletes, I've really benefited from this setup up here, and it's
important to have that distance, though. To a certain extent.
It is, and because I used to live on this campus, I know what it's like living on where you live and where you train, and it's very, very good when you want to focus on events such as the Olympics. But coming back from the Olympics, I'm also I've had a life-changing experience, and I'm in many ways totally different. I kind of need to expand my own self, my own, hopefully gain some qualities. And it took me 2017 to really kind of find that out. And I found 2017 quite hard.
Sure.
Like many athletes do, kind of after the Olympic Games, you've had such a huge moment in life. And you come back and then you're back and it's done. And for me, I wanted to go to the Olympics since I was about 8 years old. And I was lucky enough, one of the very lucky athletes, just over 70 Irish athletes were lucky to go to Rio. And I was one of them. And so you come back and it's like, where do you want to go now? And it took me that year to figure out what I needed to do, or what I'd like to do even. And college was that thing. I thought, you know what? I think I've got to a stage now where I'm good enough to maybe give that a go. And if I wasn't good enough, then so be it. I've given it a go. But I feel like with the support behind me, and college have been fantastic. I've had a really, really good year. And it's been a hectic year. Full-time college course, full-time diving. And in many ways, you'd think the diving might suffer, but if anything, it's actually got better. And I've had my most successful year to date. So it's been a really good year, and I'm really looking forward to carrying this on going into the Olympics as well.
It's great, and it's great to hear you speaking with such enthusiasm about that, because you mentioned yourself there, 2017 was tough, and like you mentioned at the start of the interview, having a car, and it's not just the convenience of that, it's the symbolism of that. It's like being able to afford that, and Dublin Port, as you mentioned, have been great to you to come on board and to give you a bit of financial support, because I guess last year to actually make a bit of money, you had to, I guess, stay in the pool, you had to give lessons, and ultimately every single element of your life was focused in on the aquatic centre here, which of course is a great facility, but you do need that break.
Yeah, and like I said, I'm one of the lucky athletes who is a carded athlete, and I've obviously got to get those good results to be a carded athlete. So, 2017 was a hard one, and I was kind of going for a route that I didn't really know where. I was kind of meandering along, like what am I actually doing? And I was struggling with some dives. So one of the big aspects that I've changed this season, I'm starting to feel more comfortable with some of my dives. So after the Olympics, now I went to the Olympics and I did a bit of an easier dive list compared to a lot of the other people. Okay. And for me, it was outdoor diving, it was winter in Rio, the weather played havoc, and that got me through into the semi-final. I upped the DD a little bit and then went into the final, and then I found myself in an Olympic final. And for me, it was all about consistency, but it was 8th place, but I felt like we could do so much better than 8th place. So that meant kind of bringing out the big guns, the big dives, to be up there with the world's best. And so last season we added a reverse 3.5 into my list and a forward 4.5 somersaults, which is basically you get to the end of a board and hopefully you have to have a good takeoff as well. Yeah. The dive doesn't start at the end of a board, the dive starts as you're walking down the board, and you have to have a good takeoff to basically throw and hold on for your life and then go through the water with no splash at all. That's kind of how diving works a lot of the time.
Sounds pretty easy.
It has its moments.
Sounds impossible.
It has its painful moments, I'll tell you that. And last year was one of those years where it took me a while to kind of get those dives, and you know what, they didn't click at all throughout the whole year, and I was struggling to make them, do them in competition. Now in competition, I'm sure you can imagine the diving board, all of a sudden it feels a lot narrower, a lot more wobblier, and it's a lot more scarier. And that's one of the things that I worked really hard on going into Rio, was the psychological element of it, and kind of that tunnel focus and using all those those factors around you using to your advantage. And that's one of the things I actually found quite hard to do with these new dives. I felt like I implemented that quite well in Rio, but with these new dives, it was a whole nother challenge. And in 2017, I was on a circuit called the World Series, which is just, it's an invitation-only event, which is just for the best divers around the world. So I found myself in this arena where it's not the Olympics or the World Championships where it's the best divers in the world and then the group just behind. And if it's World Championships, then you've got the younger athletes trying to push up into that group. This really was a circuit for the very best divers in the world, and there was me trying to do these harder dives, and you can imagine the pressure on those. And it was my first attempt doing it, and they didn't go too great. But this season was the first season where we actually went to the British Championships as a team, and I won the competition, which was great. Come back, and because the British Championships, there's not many national championships in Europe that are harder than that. The depth in British diving, for example, is very, very good. And the standard is very, very good. And so to come away with a gold medal, and that's fantastic. But for me, it was the great thing was I was standing there, and I felt like, I can breathe. I know I can do these dives. And I did them. And then I followed it up later at a competition in Eindhoven a week later, and that's kind of gone into the World Championships as well. So we just had our World Championships only a couple of weeks ago, the World Cup, and I finished China, right? In China, in a place called Wuhan, which was a very interesting place. China's a fantastic country to go to, and I'm very, very lucky I get to.
Was it your first time there?
No, second time. Okay. Very, very lucky I get to go to some of these places. But Wuhan someone described it as just an average sized city, and I looked it up and it has over 10 million people. So it's one of these Chinese cities that is just a small city, 10 million people in there, and it's it's over 10 million people. I didn't see a single house. It was all apartment blocks, just as far as the eye could see. Just these skyscrapers went on and on. But that aside, so I digress. It's the World Championships, and my first two dives weren't great, and so I then had to rely on these two really, really hard dives to get me through into the semi-final.
Yeah.
So you have lots of divers, and then there's a big cut-off point, just top 18 to go to a semi-final. And I stood there, and I did those dives really well, and it got me into the semi-final. And then I was there in the semi-final, and then I made a world final, and so which is great. So top 12 in the world, and. Unfortunately, though, I messed up on one of those dives in the forward 4.5. I messed up in the final, and it wasn't through kind of lack of concentration or anything. I just somehow went higher than I usually do.
So you ended up going 5.
So I wish I could have done 5 somersaults. But no, I got an extra half a metre of height up the board, and so I'm spinning around, and I'm thinking, how on earth, what do I do? And in diving, it's a sport, and every split second counts. And if you miss that split second, that's a medal gone. That's a world final gone or a semi-final gone. And I panicked, and I just washed it over. And I dropped that dive. But the really positive thing was I finished 7th. So 7th in the world with a missed dive.
Yeah.
Usually if you miss a dive, you're out.
And if that had been like a score you were expecting, where would you have finished?
You know what, I haven't actually really looked too much into it. I'm trying not to look too much into it, mainly because it'll annoy me.
Yeah, sure.
But there's so many positives I can take from that, because 7th in the world with a missed dive. It wasn't like I finished 7th in the world and dived out of my skin. I've got a bit of room to work with now, and that's the great thing going into like the European Games coming up.
You're thinking, you're looking at the podium.
Yeah. If I dive how I can dive, then I'll definitely be in that group. Now Europe is the most depth. It's a very, very hard continent for diving, which is, for me, it's fantastic to be involved in that. So you've got the Russians, the Ukrainians, the British, the Germans, the French, the Italians, and now the Irish, which is great to see, and it's great to be a part of that. And I'll definitely be there in that medal push. I like to think I will be anyway. I know if I dive how I can. I never tried to look for the results too much. I tried to, one of the things I worked on was just a one dive at a time process, because, if you miss that dive, then you're gone a lot of the time. So you don't want to be thinking about the outcome, because that's when you then get too stressed in competition. And it's in a sport like diving, when that board feels narrow and the board gets wobbly, it's a very scary sport to be in. It's very lonely sometimes to be stood on that diving board. And so it's all about keeping in check those motions. So I'll be looking for like a one dive at a time process. I do that first dive, good, get it over with. If it was good, it was bad, I'm on to the second dive now. I'm not worrying about the third, not worrying about the previous, just onto that second dive. And then I found that technique at the Olympics really helped out when some people were messing up around me. Now at the Olympics, this is how kind of uneven diving can be. The Olympics, the Olympic champion from London 2012 didn't make the final. He finished 18th. The world champion from the previous year didn't even make the semi-final. So that really is, if you miss a dive in, then it's gone.
Yeah.
And so that's what makes it so exciting. It's a great spectacle to watch, and it's great to be involved in that as well. And I love that kind of will it, won't it go? It's I mean, even for me, sometimes I'm on the board thinking, will it, won't it? But now I've got to a stage where I'm thinking, no, it will.
Yeah.
Which is a great place to be in.
Absolutely. It sounds like things are flying for you at the moment. It sounds like the next 2 years, when we kind of come through the other side of this Olympic cycle, it sounds like momentum is really on your side.
On my list, which is a back 3.5. So this one's a really hard one because you stand backwards, you have no momentum going out the board, so it's all just brute strength, just trying to get out the board and then fit 3.5 somersaults in before you go through the water. And so it'll be.
Have you tried that before in competition?
Maybe once a long time ago, and I didn't end up too pretty. So this will be the first time, and if I do it, I'm hoping to do it. It might not go into my list. We'll be working on it over the next 3 weeks. But it's one of those dives where we need a time to do it. And I've done the World Championships now, so we're going to have to do it at the Europeans, and then hopefully then incorporate into my list all throughout next year. Because if I get that dive down with these new harder dives, and we're not looking at 8th place or just scraping into a final. We're looking at kind of up there with the big boys now, and it's great for me to kind of be in that environment now where I feel comfortable within that environment. And it's but you know what, I think college has had a big part to play with that kind of. I felt very uncomfortable being in that environment with those divers, and the same for college when I went there. I think last year I really struggled with a bit of anxiety as well, so to be able to go into college, I really felt like I, pardon pun, dived headfirst into college, and being amongst those just finding myself in those uncomfortable experiences, and I felt that's really helped me kind of come out of my shell a little, hopefully.
Yeah, because it's strange when you think of like an athlete who's succeeded, who's an Olympic finalist, that they should have all the confidence in the world, but that's not the case.
No.
The anxiety can come from just out of your comfort zone.
I get very nervous, and especially after the Olympics, I was really hit by anxiety and nerves, and I'd have periods where I wouldn't go to the shop sometimes because I just got a bit too nervous, just kind of having people around me.
Was that the trigger for just being potentially recognised, maybe?
Well, the trigger for it, I wasn't too well after the Olympics, and I fainted, and that was the trigger, because I fainted in public, and I found it really hard to come back from that. So you can imagine going into college, and I remember sat there on my first day at college, in the induction day, and I actually sat right at the back of a room, as close to the closest exit I could possibly get to. I probably wouldn't have been able to do this a few months ago I started college. I went through a really bad stage, and college has really helped me come out of my shell, I think, and also socialising with people. It wasn't something I necessarily was doing. Not going on nights out, but just kind of going out for my mates might be having a drink, but I'll go out for a Coke as well and enjoy myself as well. And it's kind of pushing myself into those uncomfortable situations. I've become comfortable. I've become the norm, and that's really helped in my diving this last year as well, because I went through a stage last year where I'd stand on the diving board and my hands were going like this, and you can imagine standing there and your hands are like this, and it's
terrifying, I'd imagine.
It's terrifying. That's a good word to describe it. I was going to say scary, but no, it really is terrifying. And I found general kind of life experiences quite terrifying, like going to the shops. So it's nice to kind of come out of that, and that's really kind of impacted on my diving. Just that extra bit of confidence, or just extra bit of it's just something extra's there, and it's really helped me come out of my shell, and especially in the diving world as well.
I'm glad to hear that.
Thank you.
We wish you all the best over
thank
the
you
next
very much.
couple of weeks.
Thank you.
Best of luck with everything in college. Glad to hear it's going so well. I guess we have to give the viewers some advice for any new TV or TV shows or films you've seen, considering you are about to become an expert in all of this.
You know what? I've been bamboozled by all these different films out there. And one of the great things, there's a lecture I have called Introduction to World Cinema.
Okay.
And it was great because you'd have an hour and a half of lecture, and then you'd watch a film. That's a great college course. I'd sit there, I'd open my packet of popcorn, and I'd enjoy it. And there's some great films out there, and I'm always learning every single day. But I would only ever stick to one type of film before I went to college. I was just kind of broad range. I got into my Indian film, my Iranian films, and there's some great Chinese films out there as well. Some terrible films out there as well, which I really found out. But it's all preference at the end of the day. And I'm having a great time, and the audio work especially I really enjoyed it, because I always like my podcasts and everything, and so it's been a very, very diverse course of different things as well, and just kind of learning how to learn again as well. I hate reading and so starting to read was always, these academic books was always a tricky one, but no, I've had a great time. It's been a great challenge, and I feel very, very lucky, and I met some great people, and I'm feeling like I'm in a very good place right now, and going into these European champs and beyond, and also just in life in general has been fantastic, and it's been absolutely great. So thank you for having me today.
No, thank you. Oliver Dingley, thanks a million for that.
Thank you.
OTBAM.
Thanks to Screwfix.ie, championing the trade with a choice of over 20,000 quality trade products.